From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight. I'm Carrie Sharp. Got a great topic that we've done before, and I think that we'll probably have lots of calls once again. We're here to help you tonight. Clint Kelly is here, our attorney specializing in medical malpractice. Clint, thank you so much for being here.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're with the Kelly firm. Obviously, it's a family business with
That's
the name. Right. Medical malpractice is what you do, and this is something that people may be surprised how prevalent it is. Can you give me some numbers?
Yeah, third leading cause of death in the United States today, right behind heart disease and cancer. They've accounted for 250,000 deaths annually in the United States, and you can probably double that number of persons who are severely injured as a result of medical negligence.
And those are the cases that are known. There are probably cases that fall through the cracks that no one reported or no one said, I think something went wrong here.
That's correct.
And that's kind of scary when you already think it's already a third leading cause of death.
Well, it is, and it gives you an idea of not only how prevalent it is, but also the fact that these patients and those of us in the community have to be much more vigilant when we go to the hospital to make sure that we come out in one piece.
Yeah. If this piqued your interest when I said medical malpractice and you're thinking, I've thought about that in a case that I had to deal with, an illness or a trip to the hospital, go ahead and give us a call. Clint will be able to answer your questions tonight. 615-737-PLUS is the number to call. And I just have a few questions as we get started here. Are there certain types of injuries or illnesses or surgeries that often lead to the cases that you deal with?
Yeah, I would say probably the most common is a misdiagnosis, where a patient is improperly diagnosed and typically goes home, or an injury is not recognized in the hospital and the patient has a bad outcome that could have been prevented. For example, chest pain that's misdiagnosed as upset stomach.
Sure.
Or a patient who's bleeding in the spine after spine surgery, and the nurse practitioner thinks it's simply inflammation when instead it's a big giant blood clot that's cutting off circulation and creating paralysis. So those happen quite often, and those are the most common cases. And in terms of surgery, I think probably the most common surgical procedure that I have run across in terms of patients calling me and asking me do they have a case is gallbladder surgery.
Gallbladder surgery? That seems like it'd be very benign, very routine.
It does.
Not a big deal.
It does, and I thought that as well. And then you realize a lot of people have it, and they've gotten pretty good at doing it what they call laparoscopically, which is putting scopes inside. But for some reason, maybe it's because of where that organ is located, but there have been a lot of mishaps not only in the surgery itself but post-operatively. I had a patient who almost died from it one time and took her case, and had another patient who did die from it.
My goodness.
And then I get calls all the time about them.
But you say you get calls all the time, but all of those calls do not lead to cases.
Correct.
So what does, what doesn't?
All right. I think the best definition for a medical malpractice case is you have a major medical mistake that causes a major medical injury. Those are the two components. And notice I use the word cause, Carrie, because there are many times where there are medical mistakes, but it didn't cause anything. In other words, the injury itself could not, or you can't prove it could have been prevented, and we refer to those simply as bad outcomes. And patients have bad outcomes all the time. No doctor is a guarantor of success. It's an art, not a science.
Yeah.
And so they do the best they can. But when that major medical mistake actually causes a major injury that would not otherwise have occurred, then you've got a case worth investigating.
Then you start talking. You pick up that phone and make a call. Sandy's on the phone with us tonight. Sandy, thank you for giving us a call tonight. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, I have a relative, my daughter, one of my daughters, that she had a misdiagnosis of cancer, and the doctor told me that he was going to be talking with the board of people, and first they said it was not Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then they said it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but she got treated for both of them, and then she had lymph nodes taken out, and she's had a lot of stuff. Her lymph nodes taken. It's been terrible. But I was wondering how long after that could she look into some kind of lawyer about that.
Sandy, that's a great question. In Tennessee, we have what's called the statute of limitations. And that law allows a patient to bring a lawsuit within 1 year of the date that the patient discovers the injury. That 1 year can be extended by an additional 4 months so long as pre-suit notice is sent. And so the message that I always convey at every one of these shows, Carrie, I do it every time, if you think that you or family member have been the victim of malpractice, pick up the phone and call. It costs nothing to get a legal opinion on whether the case has merit, and it can make the difference between you getting compensation and getting nothing. Because I've had many cases, maybe a fourth of the cases that I've looked at over my career, that I've had to turn away because the patient waited too long. Waited a couple of years, 3 years, or thought they would get better, and then by the time they called me, the time had run out.
And it's important to note, but Sandy, hang on, because I have a few questions for you. It's important to note it's from the discovery. It's not from maybe the day you had surgery. It's from the discovery of the mistake, perhaps, or the injury.
That's a good point, Carrie. And a lot of people need to understand it's when you know or should know that there's been some type of medical mistake. So in Sandy's case, whenever there is a discovery that the cancer was misdiagnosed, that's when the clock starts ticking. That's when your year begins to run. And you do have a year to go ahead and get a lawyer, but don't wait. If you think that that's what's happened to you or a family member, just pick up the phone and call. The consultation's free, and the patient doesn't know anything unless money's recovered for them.
So, Sandy, was your daughter harmed, you think, by this misdiagnosis?
Well, yeah, she had a lot of surgery with the lymph nodes, and she's having a lot of health problems from all of that. And she, plus she, well, her child and stuff, she couldn't take care of her child, and it just was really hard.
Yeah. Well, Sandy, I hate to hear that. Thank you for calling in and asking that very important question. We do appreciate that. I believe we also have Linda on the phone tonight. Linda, thank you for being with us. Are you there, Linda?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, make sure that you turn down your TV and just listen to your phone, and then you can go ahead with your question if you can hear us okay.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, my problem is I went in for a typical OBGYN, exam. He told me that my vaginal wall had collapsed. We scheduled surgery about 4 days afterwards, and when we did the surgery, I did not have incontinence. No incontinence whatsoever. He ended up putting a bladder sling in that I did not need. I'm allergic to everything. My problem with the thing is now that when I go to the bathroom, I do not know when I'm done peeing. I urinate all over my hand, all over my clothing, and as well, the surgery was in February, and I, as of right now, am still not healed. The bladder sling has herniated through my vaginal wall, and he kept saying, oh, your stitches aren't dissolving. Well, I finally went to the Vanderbilt Women's Center and got a second opinion and found out that I medically did not need the sling at all because I did not have incontinence. And now what I have is worse than incontinence. I don't even know when I'm done peeing now.
Yeah. Oh, Linda, I know that I can just sense your frustration and just just what a terrible situation. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it sounds like what she's describing is a condition called vaginal prolapse, which gave rise to these sling procedures. And I'm speculating. I wouldn't have any way of knowing this without an expert evaluating it, but it sounds like she had some nerve damage in the course of the procedure. Now, what typically they'll tell patients in these situations is give it a calendar year to get better.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah, because the calendar year is when I can't file a lawsuit.
Exactly.
I only have a year.
Exactly. And so when those situations come up, I encourage patients to call or encourage the public to call and at least have the claim looked at. What is going to be difficult, though, for Linda is because of the time that it takes for the nerve to recover, she may or she may not make a recovery up until January, February of the following year. So the question in my mind is, was there something done wrong during this procedure? The second part that is important here is this a risk of the procedure? Is it something that the patient is instructed by or informed by the doctor that can happen even under the best circumstances? Remember, we talked about bad outcomes.
Right.
So it may be a situation where the doctor did everything he was supposed to do and still caused the nerve damage. but perhaps he performed improperly.
The sling is still visible through my vaginal wall. It has not healed. He did not give me, in other words, what do they call it, atopic?
Yes.
He was atopic, and he should have gotten my vaginal tissue healthy before he even performed any kind of a surgery. And he did not do that. I was in surgery 4 days after my exam.
And you said that you went to another doctor and they said you didn't even need this, right?
Oh, I called my insurance company and complained, and they sent me to Vanderbilt Women's Center. And this doctor, doctor's not going to go in there against another doctor, but he kept saying to me, Linda, do you understand you did not need a bladder sling? And he made that very, very clear. And another thing this physician did, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I do not take blood. And they had on my chart, now every one of my medical charts has that I do not take blood. I've had 5 surgeries, I've never taken blood. And it had on there that I gave them permission to give me blood. And it wasn't me that checked it because I'm left-handed, and I do a downstroke and off to the left. And these were X's. I did not fill out that paperwork.
Were you given blood during the procedure?
No, I wasn't. If I was, believe me, I wouldn't just be calling you.
All right. Look, I want to talk about that for a while.
And I did research. I got all the papers from the hospital, and it was a recalled sling that he put in. Also.
All right, Linda, what I want you to do in the morning is I want you to call my office, and the number is 615-824-3703. It's on the screen right now. When you call, I want you to ask to speak to Kathy. That's my nurse consultant, and she'll either get connected with you at the time or she'll call you back. I want you to give her the information that you've given me here in addition to the recall information on the sling, and then I'm gonna take a look at this and talk to my expert gynecologist and find out whether or not this is a case I'd want to pursue. But I want to get more background on this before I decide.
All right, Lynn, thank you for calling, and maybe this will lead to some help. But
I was going to tell you about Jehovah's Witnesses.
You too. Thank you.
That's a big deal about this consent form being changed. The Jehovah's Witnesses have an absolute right not to have blood transfused into them. And it's their religious belief, and all hospitals and doctors know this, Carrie. You don't do this, and so, it doesn't sound like she needed it from what she said, but the fact that someone would change a consent form like that to provide for that is not only is it unethical to do that, but for a Jehovah's Witness, it's devastating religiously.
Sure. Is there any repercussion?
Well, if she'd been given blood, she could have sued him for that. That is tantamount to an assault.
Wow.
If you don't permit blood to be transfused on religious grounds and they do it anyway, that is tantamount to assault.
Have you ever had a case like that?
I had one case that I resolved a few years ago that was like that.
How did it resolve?
Well, I can't. It's confidential, Carrie, but let's put it this way. It was a situation where there was definitely fault on the part of the healthcare provider. There wasn't dishonesty, but clearly there was a mistake made about what the patient's preferences are. And Carrie, we all have a right to control our body.
Absolutely. Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you for your calls already. They have been great. And if you have a question at home that you're thinking, should I call in or not? This is your time to get some free advice and some free help. So go ahead and give us a call during the break. We will be right back with more on medical malpractice. Stay with us.